And welcome back to the Delaware Boys Dynasty Football Podcast. Ryan, we're back. Say what's up to the people.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the stream. So last podcast, we had my little whole fiasco about receivers, which is my thing. And so tonight, Steven gets to steal the show with running backs. And I know this is something he looks forward to. So I'm kind of just here to give my spiel and let him do his thing on that side.
We always start off with wide receivers. It's your domain. But to be honest, when it comes to scouting the wide receiver position, I've gotten a lot better. You know what I mean? Taking your advice over the years has really helped me look for things. But tonight, we're in a whole nother domain. Welcome to the land of the running backs. But how I want to start this show, let's start this show with this, because I have a couple of spin-offs that we could do, especially with this show. This show is the running back position is in a really weird state. So we have a mix, an inner circle of veterans with a mix of younger elite talent type guys, right? So when we're talking about Dynasty, are we talking about are we contending for a title? Are we a mid-pack team when we don't know what to do with the players we have? Or are we in complete rebuild? You know what I mean? So these scenarios, they fit each and every running back differently that we're going to talk about. A lot of these guys that are in this circle are sells for me. A lot. There's a lot of running backs. I have if we're talking about elite running backs, I have 8 sells. 10. I could sell them right now and not lose.
Yeah.
But also, too, you have to remember the fact that in most scenarios, if you feel like you're contending for a title and you're making that push, these are the guys that can put you over the top.
Yeah.
When it comes to consistent volume from skill position guys, consistent volume with the touches, especially with the guys that have the elite receiving profile, volume is king. These guys win you leagues. Yeah. Year to year, that's why running backs are more important than wide receivers.
So here's the thing with the running backs for me is I used to be a running back guy. And then year after year after year, maybe it's just my luck, but year after year, it seemed like every time I drafted a high-end running back, they would go down. And then I would be left with a hole in my team, you know? Like back in the day, you were taking a running back in that first round of most startups. That's just how it was. That was the market at the time. So taking your first round pick, sometimes even your second for me, off your team for the whole season hurts. It happened to me a few times. So I turned heel on receiver, maybe a little bit sooner than most. But the injury thing with the running backs scares me off so much that I don't even want to pay the premium for most of these guys. With an exception, I'll talk about it later, but we'll get into that.
I can say this. Running back values when it comes to a yearly basis has a significant change, a lot more than wide receivers do. If you notice, your wide receiver values don't necessarily change drastically like running backs do.
I mean, I agree with that. Yeah.
For example, let's talk about a guy like Javonte Williams, who we had going into 2023 as a consensus top 4 dynasty running back.
Yep.
Fair enough. Now we're talking about him in the back end of the teens.
Mm-hmm.
DeAndre Swift, a couple of injury-riddled seasons, and we're now pushing him to the back end closer to 20.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about him last year, top 5. Drastic value changes, and you have to change with the times very quickly at this position, or you're going to get left behind.
Right.
So with that being said, let's jump into it. Let's box, baby. Go ahead. I want you to start this off, because I have a feeling I'm going to do a lot of talking tonight, and I don't mean it to be that way, but this is just something I'm very passionate about, and this is a position that I'm very passionate about, because I like I said, to this day, if you're playing in redraft style formats, I will tell you that I think it's important to have elite running backs. And I will stand by that. And that's just what it is.
So here's my whole spiel that I was referring to. Like buys and sells is such a tough thing for me for running backs because, like you said previously, like there's a long list of people you could sell, and I'm selling running backs. I'm kind of out on them as a position, but that's why you're here. And the only like exception that I'm making for like buying a running back would be these rookie guys. Like get them while they're cheaper because, like you said, their value drastically changed much more than receivers do, which makes it a little bit easier. Like this time last year, Breece Hall was in training camp. He was getting ripped by most of the Dynasty community, whatever, fantasy football community. And you got him cheap, but now you try to buy Breece Hall and his price is like way up. Now, I'll say that like now is probably not the best time to go out there and buy Bijan because he's this generational talent. People have been waiting for like 2 or 3 years. But like if you can go buy Jahmyr Gibbs, go buy Jahmyr Gibbs. Same thing goes for Kendry Miller, Roshan Johnson. Like these are guys that like I'm willing to go buy because their value could change drastically. Now, I don't want to get too speechy, but I feel like I'm not going to have a lot of airspace here. So for me, when it comes to selling running backs, especially in the dynasty format, my whole thing is like once you feel like they've had their best season, get them out of here. The only exception I have to that rule is Derrick Henry. I mean, look at Jonathan Taylor, 1,800-yard season, his second year, exploded that back end of his rookie year. Like, that's probably going to be his best season. I don't know if it gets better than that. Saquon Barkley came out of the scene, bursted. He was an RB1 or 2, and ever since then, he's been, you know what I mean? So it's like, you kind of got to cash in on these guys after these big seasons. Like all last year, I was preaching, sell Jonathan Taylor. He came off this massive season. And you saw what happened last year. I mean, given that could be a lot of the malfunction of the offense, whatever it may be, but that was a dramatic fall off from year to year for Jonathan Taylor. And that's just, I don't know, for a running back position, that's not really one to play. So I'm very quick to flip a running back. Like, expiration date for these running backs is quick for me. Okay. And then obviously, like, I'm not going to be blind to deaf to the rule. Like, there are exceptions, like Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, who, like, these guys kind of like late bursts, but those come so far and few between. I don't want to, like, make that bet on any one person, if that makes sense. But that's my whole thing with running backs. I'll kick it over to you. Let you hit you with them counterpoints.
So I want to talk about what you said. Let's talk about the running backs that you can buy via the rookies. I always tell you have to buy these guys before they become stars in the league. There's something that sets them apart in their college profile that you think will translate to the NFL. Again, Breece Hall being my guy last year. Yeah. Lived and died by it. Drafted Breece Hall well higher than most would have said for his ADP. I did it all year. I never strayed. I got a lot of shit from a lot of people that we know personally. And here we are. We're talking about a guy who averaged over 17.5 points per game, who balled in the league, who would have just smashed. Comes off, ACL tear, cool. We're talking about that. That's not forgotten. But you're talking about a guy like, and that's my thing. You have to buy into these guys before they become stars. Right. Granted, if they're an elite asset like that, you're probably paying more premium price than you would from the jump. So Bijan, for an example, most of the dynasty community, if not all, has Bijan as the running back one. Mm-hmm. Fair enough. We're talking about an elite prospect. We're talking about elite draft capital going to a system and scheme that fits Bijan's skill set. We're talking about a head coach that wants to pound the rock, pound it early and often. Fair enough, right? On top of that, we're also talking about a guy who has an elite receiving profile. You know what I mean? This guy that's going to be on the field for 3 downs. No question.
Sure.
No question.
Yeah.
So I get it. I do get it. So with Bijan, my question is, how much higher can his value get?
I mean, that's why when I was doing my little exceptions thing, that's why I kind of
Right.
have like I'm not going to advise people to buy Beach. I mean, he's already RB1 consensus, so like it's hard to say like I mean, I go into the season fully expecting him to be in that top 5. Like I still think there's a world where he finishes RB1 this year just with the scheme that he's in. So, as far as like how much higher can it go? Like the trades I've seen to get Bijan to get the 101 in these rookie drafts is insane.
Right. So let's say this. I know we don't play a lot of one QB, so let's just say we're in a one QB draft, right? Jefferson, Chase,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have the conversation with yourself. Is it CeeDee Lamb or is it Bijan Robinson? That's the point that's the point that we're both trying to make here.
Yeah.
Is I don't think Bijan will ever leapfrog Jefferson or Chase. I think those are your 1-2 picks in a one QB setting or any skill position setting for the next 5 to 8 years.
Yeah.
Now, we're not doing Devy talk because Marvin Harrison Jr. That's a whole nother conversation. But let's bring it in here. Like, can Bijan, and I say no, but can Bijan realistically jump and leapfrog these guys? You know what I mean?
It's so tough to say because I mean, obviously you got Justin Jefferson, who's a god. He'll eat up those yards, and then on the other hand, you got Jamar Chase, who has this massive touchdown upside. So me personally, I mean, we say this, but Jonathan Taylor exploded, and he was going pretty much 101 last year above Justin Jefferson. So I mean, I guess there's a possibility out there that Bijan can go out there and be top 3. You know what I mean? Top 2, whatever. And he'll shoot up boards next year. I mean, people love the young running backs, especially me. So it would be easier for him, or at least in my mind. Everybody has a different opinion, but I think he can jump Chase. I don't know if he would jump Jefferson for me.
So
Some people see it differently.
So I don't have Bijan or Jahmyr Gibbs as extreme buys at this current moment. Especially Gibbs. Gibbs is already priced at a high dynasty point. We're talking about anywhere from running back 4 to running back 7 in that range. I think that's very high. And I'll be honest with you, I'm on board with that. But when it comes down to it, you're also talking about a guy who doesn't profile as a workhorse running back.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also concerns on the Gibbs profile. But again, we've never seen. I mean, we have seen it, but it's very few and far between. You get a guy who classifies as a weapon, as I want to call it, not a true workhorse back.
Yeah.
A guy with explosiveness in between and outside of the tackles. A guy with that kind of advanced twitchiness. That guy with the elite first step, the burst. He runs routes better than most wide receivers, so he can be used all over the field. The Alvin Kamara, the Christian McCaffrey, the Austin Eckler hybrid, like that kind of guy. So I get why the upside is there. But again, I don't think there's a huge selling point on Gibbs or a huge buy point, excuse me. So it comes down to the fact, are you willing to pay that price? Because I do think you need an elite running back on your roster to win championships. You can have all the wide receivers you want, but you need a high volume running back.
Right. To back it up.
Put you over the top.
Yeah.
So, but my guy, like the class here, like I just want to touch on this real quick. The guys that I think are huge buys, especially at their positions, like for the running backs, Kendre Miller stands out to me as a buy.
Right. Yeah.
The very physical north-south downhill guy, runs tough, runs physical, runs hard. Didn't show a whole lot of at TCU for a receiving profile, but stands out. And then I also want to talk about one more being the guy that backed up Bijan. Let's talk about Roschon. We're talking about one of the swiftest and most twitchy running backs to come in it. One of the best elusive grades coming into it. Tests well as an athlete as well. I think an absolute steal in the 4th round for the Chicago Bears. Not a whole lot of competition there. Talk about that. Let's talk about the competition for both these guys real quick. Deontay Foreman on a 1-year deal.
Right.
Khalil Herbert on his last year of a rookie. not much stands in his way to touches later on in his career. Maybe he doesn't get it this year, but I mean a huge stash on your taxi if you're playing taxi squads in your dynasty leagues. And I think Kendra can step in and make an impact earlier said than not.
Yeah, for sure.
I know Jamal Williams had a 17 touchdown season last year, but realistically, we're talking about a 28-year-old running back in Jamal Williams. We're talking about a 28-year-old running back in Alvin Kamara, who has shown a decline in the last 3 years, a significant decline to me. We're talking about those guys being at the end of their careers, and we're talking about this guy who's going to step in. And you can talk about him being on the pup. I'm not worried about him being on the pup. It's early. We're in training camp. I think those guys are huge buys. You're getting them in the second. Kendra typically early second. Roshan typically mid to later second. Yeah, take the shot.
Yeah,
take the shot.
I think the real value that's going to come out of that is if you have if you have rookies included in your startup, if you can get them late, that's great value. Yep. And you're right. I think both of them, no shot. Either of them get significant. Oh, I could point them and be that's going to be my RB2 or my RB3. I think these are guys that are going to need a year probably, but for the value that they're at right now, I'll buy them. I mean, what are you paying for them? A future second, maybe a low end wide receiver. So I definitely take shots at those guys. I've been buying and drafting both of those guys pretty frequently in my rookie drafts. So I love it. Yeah. Because I'm a big buy your running backs in rookie drafts and just kind of hope they pan out instead of going out and trading high end value to get one that might have a fall off season or get hurt or whatever it may be.
Kendra, my running back 3. Now, granted, I have a huge tier fall off after Gibbs, but Kendra, my running back 3, Roshan, my running back 4. I will never tell you to buy Zach Charbonnet because I do not like Zach Charbonnet. Never been a fan. Let me
go. I hate the Charbonnet hype, man. I really hated it because, looking, I'm not the running back guy, but there's some tape you can watch and be like, okay, there's some things here that should concern you. The biggest standout for me in his tape is he runs wonky. I don't really think he runs with a lot of confidence a lot of the time either. I mean, sure, you'll see him truck every once in a while, but in the league, you can't really have these hesitation moments or these slow twitches that he has in these colleges that gets away with the UCLA. I don't know if it translates to the league, and I hate it so much because Ken Walker, who, hey, I don't buy running backs, but Ken Walker is probably a buy for me. People are down on him because of Charbonnet, but end of the day, he led the league last year in 15+ yard carries. That's crazy. He had the highest explosive rate out of anybody in the league. So.
And like I say about that, people are also forgetting that Zach Charbonnet couldn't cut it at Michigan.
Yeah,
couldn't cut it. So now we go, across the pond. We go to California. We go play at UCLA. It's not. Listen, I will say this: the only positive thing I have to say is that Zach Charbonnet profiles as more of a receiver than Ken Walker. Okay, fair enough.
It's fair.
But when it comes to running the ball. Does Ken Walker have red flags in his tape? Yes. Yes, he does.
Sure.
Is he the most explosive running back in the room? Yes. No question. So before we get too caught up on this, I will say I'm not afraid of Zach Charbonnet. I'm not. If from what I'm hearing out of Seattle is true that they want to get Ken anywhere from 17 to 20 touches a game, great. Phenomenal.
It's not bad.
That's not bad. How many running backs in the league today get that? Not many.
Right. Yeah. So, we're moving more toward a committee type.
Yeah. So let's get off this. But my first buy, I want to talk about Javonte. I want to talk about Javonte Williams. A guy that I think has massive upside at where you can buy him at. Keep Trade Cut has him at running back 15. Remember, we don't use Keep Trade Cut as other than a see where the community has this guy ranked. So, running back 15, like I said, in 2022, going into 2023, we have him as high as running back 3 in most rankings. Running back 3, running back 4. All rookies, all running backs. First year leads the league in broken tackles. Explosive run rate. had 25 carries of 15-plus yards or more. Huge broken tackle guy. Runs tough, runs ferocious. Love it. On top of that, averaged 7.79 yards after the catch. We were talking about Michael Carter in North Carolina as this prolific receiving back. We're not talking about Javonte Williams. Why? He had a sneaky 43 catches his rookie year. And he split time with Melvin Gordon. Him and Melvin Gordon had the exact same touches. The exact same. And now let's fast forward to 2023. He's going to avoid the pup. I'm not saying he's going to be 100% to start the year. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But 110 mil just went into the Broncos O-line. We bring in Sean Payton, who the last 4 years of Kamara's career, running back 8, running back 4, running back 2, and running back 8 in fantasy points per game. Over that stretch, Kamara, over 4-year stretch, averaged 18.3 fantasy points per game with Sean Payton.
Mm-hmm.
And Javonte Williams is a better pure runner.
Yeah.
He's one of the best pure runners in football.
Listen.
And we're talking about running back 15. Same guys that we're talking about who are on 1-year deals. Tony Pollard. We're talking about Tony Pollard, who does not profile to me as a workhorse back. We're talking about Tony Pollard, Najee, Ramondre, Javonte, J.K. Dobbins, all in the same tier.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the best runner out of those 5. No question.
So I kind of asked you for your buys and sells beforehand. I never really got them, but I will say, as the front runner of the Javonte pack, 2 years ago when he was coming out, I can't remember who the other running back is off the top of my head that people had ahead of him, but
what was that Javonte class?
He was ETN.
It was ETN.
I still stand by Javonte being a better running back than ETN is. Does the injury scare me a little bit? Sure. I mean, he tore his whole knee apart. I mean, it's going to be tough. It might take a few weeks of him kind of struggling, kind of like sharing with Samaje Perine before he comes into himself. But it's just one of those things where, like, you cannot own or buy Javonte and expect him to come out, like, rolling from week 1. You have to be patient with it. Like, it's not something that's going to happen week 1, week 2, week 3. Like, you might not see this elite production from Javonte until, like, week 6, 7, 8. But, I mean, you get those weeks, you're making those playoff pushes, and then in the playoffs itself, he's going to be getting into his grind, getting into his flow, just at the right time for you. So, I'm a big Javonte guy. The receiving upside, especially with Sean Payton there, give a little outlet for Russell Wilson in case he's, getting pressured, which, I mean, a lot less this year. The O-line does get better, but I'm excited to see what Javonte can do.
Yes. I will say this. Like I said, you need to damper your expectations early in 2023. Do not expect to see Javonte Williams, I'm going to say, back to his former self until the back end of 2023.
Yeah.
We can talk about, obviously, J.K. Dobbins, but remember that there is a difference. J.K. Dobbins did have another cleanup surgery during the season. So maybe it's a little earlier than we saw J.K. Dobbins get rolling. And granted, J.K. was not 100% at all last year towards the end of 2022. No. I say back end, but don't expect to see, or don't be surprised if you see Javonte Williams rolling by like week 7.
That's kind of where I have him, but we'll see as the season goes. I don't know, because you're right.
And I think Sean Payton is a smart enough coach to realize that, okay, this guy just went through a traumatic knee injury, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen until week 4. So let's pump the brakes. Let's get him healthy. This is going to be Russell's security blanket behind him.
Yeah.
And Samaje Perine, obviously not an explosive guy, but a guy that can, handle himself. You know what I mean? Handle the workload. Yeah. So, my next buy, I know you're a huge touches guy, so when it comes to running back, so I do want to talk about this as well. Najee Harris. Another buy for me. Have him going at running back 14. Played behind the 28th ranked offensive line last year. We played with a rookie QB. Had a lot of learning to do, huge learning curve to overcome. The first half of the year, the offense wasn't very good. Najee, Liz Frank injury to start the year. Also, but let's fast forward to 2023. Let's talk about the additions. Let's talk about we bring in 2 Pro Bowl caliber guards. We bring in Nate Herbig. We bring in Isaac Sumolo. We drafted our left tackle in Broderick Jones, and we brought in some depth in LaRaven Clark. Also, can't forget this guy. You bring in an elite blocking tight end in Darnell Washington.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the Steelers, we have always played this way. There was a little phase with with Big Ben where we were airing it out a little bit, but we always had Le'Veon in the backfield. But we've always wanted to establish the run. We've always wanted to be physical up front, and we wanted to play physical football. Those things, huge. Now we have Kenny going into year 2, and things look a lot better for the Steelers' offense in general. Najee was abysmal year in the first half of the year.
Oh.
He scored 1 touchdown. Scored 1. Yeah. But the second half of the year, let's look at the positives. We have 7 total touchdowns scored. We have from week 11 on averaged over 4.8 yards per carry, averaged over 90-plus scrimmage yards a game, and Najee looked explosive. Najee had 3 runs of 10-plus yards or more in the first half of the year.
Mm-hmm.
From week 11 on, he had 9.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, let's be honest. We talked about volume being king. We're talking about guys who are on the field for 3 downs. We're talking about guys who have receiving profiles that stand out. Yep. Najee's done that. Najee has a running back 3 finish and a running back 14 finish, and he was hurt earlier in the year to start training camp. Najee at running back 14 feels like a buy to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think his value is right around that area. Now, you say he had a rough start. In real life, yes. But in fantasy, he was still around that 10-point mark. Like, he's not going to be your RB1 last year at all. Like, but if he was your 2, you can't be, like, too mad at it. At least he's staying consistent around that 10-point plus range. I do think this offense gets better. So, that being said, you would think the running back of this offense, who they really, really want to be the workhorse back here, that's very apparent. So I don't mind Najee as a buy, but my thing is like, are you buying him to be your RB1, or do you feel more comfortable with him being like a high-end running back too?
So obviously the big thing here with Big Ben in year 1, we're talking about 94 targets and 74 catches. That's Austin Eckler type numbers.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't expect that to be replicated. But I'm going to say with anywhere from 45 to 55 catches is a floor for Najee. Is a floor. He's very involved. We're talking about he was averaging 18 points per game as year 1, drops down to about 13 and a quarter, 13 and a half. Honestly, running back 14, where you're buying him as a running back 2 anyway. But I think Najee outplays his running back 14 ADP anyway. So if you're getting him as your running back 2, and then you're getting running back 1 production, you're not mad. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So I think you're in a great spot with Najee when it comes to his ADP. I think you have to take advantage of his ADP. And plus, my big thing, I know you're a total touches guy. My big thing is selling running backs before their second contract. So we're going into year 3 with Najee. We have 3, 4, and the franchise tag year.
Mm-hmm.
So why not sell him at the end of year 4? He'll be going on 27. You know what I mean? He played all 4 years at Alabama. He came out a little later. So why not? 2 years of this kind of production with the fact that Mike Tomlin truly showed that he wants to improve up front. Why not?
Well, that's the liberty you have is like with Najee, is the Steelers believe in him. I feel like a lot of some of these other guys, man, like at least you can point at Najee and say, okay, that's their guy. But like you look at some of these other offensive, their running backs, and they're clearly, dude, Like, even as good as Breece Hall is, they're thinking about bringing in Dalvin Cook. So it's like, it's nice that you have that, especially from a dynasty standpoint. They clearly want this to be the guy.
Now, I know we talk about the efficiency. He's never averaged over four yards per carry. But there's running backs that haven't done it either. I mean, there's running backs that don't do it consistently either. Joe Mixon. Look at Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon has more seasons under 4 yards per carry than he does over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Melvin Gordon, he started the same way. Melvin Gordon then burst onto the scene and played lights out football. I mean, we can keep going down this list. But I do think Najee will average over 4 yards per carry this year. I do think things look significantly different than they did in 2022. These O-line additions are huge additions, and they help your running backs. I don't care how much people do or don't want to admit it, but an elite O-line or an improved O-line from 28th best in the league, that's bad.
Bad. Yeah, no good.
To whatever we finish this year, it's going to be an improvement. It will be an improvement. I will not have to see Kendrick Green play center. I will not have to watch. That's awful.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So I expect an uptick in production from Najee. Do I expect the running back 3 that we got 2 years ago? Okay, no.
Yeah.
But like I said, I do expect him to outplay his ADP at running back 14.
That's fair. And you kind of touched on it too, but I was going to take a small jab at him. And like, he wasn't the most efficient last year. There's times where he looked so confused rushing the ball, but he ended the season well. So I'm just going to say this because of the Liz Frank injury, and we're going to move on from that.
Yeah, week 11 on, he was money.
Yeah.
Absolute money.
Yeah.
So I don't know what else to chalk it up to. Maybe the injury mixed with the abysmal O-line play. You know what I mean?
A little bit of both. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's time to piss off some fantasy owners, baby.
Oh.
My biggest sell. You may not want to hear it. Nick Chubb.
Wow.
Nick Chubb.
Wow. He was somebody that would be on my sell list. I would never thought that he would be on your sell list. So let me hear it, man. I'm excited for this.
I'm telling you now. I'm not saying the wheels are going to fall off in 2023. Not saying it. But listen, these guys, they may be outlier guys. Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb. But Nick Chubb has the highest value out of anybody that I'm going to talk about tonight. 790 touches at Georgia. Amongst his college touches and NFL touches, he is at 2,118 total touches.
Come on, baby.
We are now into his second contract, which is my red flag. We have 2 years left on his second contract. The Browns are committed to Deshaun Watson. There's no question about that. The biggest thing here about Nick Chubb, and I say this because I know you're going to approach this with caution. We're talking about a guy who's never averaged under 5 yards per carry in the NFL.
Yep.
His touches over the last 3 years have increased from 15 to 16 to 17. Now we have no Kareem Hunt. I know the situation looks beautiful for 2023. And then I know the yards per game, he's sitting around 90 yards per game in year 5. Year 5, he's averaging 90 yards per game. This is when the fall off happened for Zeke. This is when Zeke became touchdown dependent. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it's going to happen in 2023, but people are paying first round premium value for Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
Who at this point, I don't know if we've seen his best season. I think last year is a possibility to be it, or this could be it. This could be it. This could be his best season right here. But the wheels are going to fall off.
Yeah.
We are at that point. We are talking about he is 27 going on 28 years old. He's almost 28 years old. This is the prime sell point. Prime. There's never going to be a higher value for Nick Chubb than today.
Yeah. So happy to talk about Nick Chubb. So I'm not 100% sure, but I just went back and looked at some of the drafts, the startups I did last year. He was going round 4. Now you look at him in these startups, he's going like 1 or 2, especially in these redrafts, man. Going really high just because of the exit of Kareem Hunt, who, no comment. I won't say he's kind of fallen off, but even we've seen him kind of decline. I don't know. The age concerns me. I'm a big touches person. He's well over that 1,500-yard mark. See him squatting all this stuff. That's great and everything, but like, dude, it's gonna happen eventually. I'm very much in the running back sense that you need to sell them before it's too late. It's too late. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to be stuck with Nick Chubb at age 29 and then struggle to sell him to somebody and end up selling him for way, way less than you bought him for. So yeah, that's it. That's my whole spiel for Nick Chubb.
But remember, I use your brother's roster as a reference because he owns a lot of these guys in your league. He owns McCaffrey. He owns Chubb. He owns Derrick Henry, right?
Right. Yeah.
There's a reason he bought them. By all means, he has the best team from top to bottom in your league. Go win a championship with these guys. But with that being said, we are now into the point where if that doesn't happen for any reason in 2023 and these guys get another 3 to 350 touches on their body, and we're talking about, what are we talking about their value being?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not paying a first for Derrick Henry no more.
Hell no.
But Nick Chubb is,
anybody is.
But Nick Chubb's still going for a first.
Yeah.
If you can get a first, and if you're not in a win now scenario, he's a perfect buy or perfect sell. Perfect sell.
Yeah.
Perfect sell. The last guy being another similar situation. Joe Mixon. Let's talk about Joe Mixon. The thing about Joe Mixon is he can be on your buy list or your sell list here, and I want to tell you why. Due to the fact that his running back value has significantly dropped from like running back 8 last year in Dynasty to running back 18, we're now talking about Joe Mixon as running back 18 off boards. Right. So you see where he can be.
I mean,
you know, I mean,
you could argue both sides. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is another guy who we're talking about a 60 catch season last year. I think in 2023, Joe Mixon will finish as a top 10 running back. I do. He finished in running back 8 in fantasy points per game last year. I do say, though, there's 2 things that stand out to me significantly, being A, the 60 catches, which he's never done.
Yeah.
Now, granted, Samaje is gone. We'll see what kind of role Chase Brown brings in. But again, he also had a 70-point game last year. That's a significant boost, not only to your overall fantasy points, but your fantasy points per game. That's a huge boost. Yeah. Joe Mixon, under 4 yards a carry again. Honestly, I think the receiving profile saved him when it came to his value. We're talking about a guy who's almost at 2,000 touches in the NFL, amongst the NFL and college as well. Zach Taylor, he let Joe Burrow throw the ball more. Passing volume is increasing. On top of that, the fact is that these guys phase. Running backs are you want fresh running backs on your roster. You want to recycle the veterans. You want fresh young talent. And if you can get some of these guys off your roster, then do it. Because eventually they're going to become a point where you're going to be dropping them and not trading them.
Yeah, and that's rough. You don't want to end up in that situation. Just get value while you can. That being said, like, I mean to put pressure on you, but like you're probably not gonna get a first for Mixon. Are you like sounding for like a lower tier player in like a second or a third, or are you like, what are we shooting here for? I think it's really hard to. The only reason why I ask is it's hard to value Joe Mixon right now. I guess it kind of just all depends on who's willing to pay for it. It goes person to person, but like, I don't know.
There's 4 players in Dynasty that stand out to me as extreme sells. Guys I no longer want, period. I want them gone.
See ya.
I will
Bye.
willingly take a cut. Mixon, Mike Evans, Aaron Jones, and if I owned him, Derrick Henry.
If I owned him.
But I own Mixon and I own Evans. I do. I own
Selling
them
him?
specifically. I sold my last Aaron Jones share last year. Mixon, Aaron Jones are guys I want nothing to do with.
Yeah.
I want them gone. You know what I mean?
Especially Aaron Jones, because like you saw him and Aaron Rodgers, they're like dynamic together. Now he's gone. I don't know what this team's gonna look like. AJ Dillon's there. They still kind of give him touches here, there, everywhere. I don't know how good this offense is going to be able to support both of them. I think the time to sell Aaron Jones is already gone.
Yeah,
I think it's already gone. Which is a big say on like, okay, maybe we should look at these guys. Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb is like, get them out now before you look at like Aaron Jones' value, and it's plummeted.
And I mean, Mixon's is plummeted. How much farther can he go? I don't know. But we're also talking about with Mixon, legal trouble. Who's, you know, I mean, this isn't his first time with legal trouble. On top of that, we were talking about the Bengals demanding him to take a pay cut or he was going to get cut. You know what I mean? We're at that point. You know what I mean? We're at that point in his career. You know what I mean? Those are guys that are just volatile and they're toxic to dynasty rosters at this point. I think he's a great championship piece for one last ride. But if you're not 100% sure that you can win a championship with your roster, when you look at it, I think you have to sell him.
So, yeah, get him out. Get him out. But
is there anybody that you want to talk about when it comes to the sells?
So, I mean, we've kind of already hit on all of them. But just like I would say that I kind of referenced it earlier where like you kind of want to sell a running back on their best season. For that same reason, I'm probably selling Josh Jacobs where I can. And just hopes that he's probably not going to be the RB1 again. That's so hard to replicate. And like, I mean, he could finish top 10, but I believe he's going into a contract year. We don't even know if he's going to be playing. He is going into a contract year because he's already talking about sitting out. So that may scare people away. But for those, if you can find someone, you know, deal with Josh Jacobs. I'm very much so like you got his best season last year. You're not going to get anything better than that, more than likely. You might as well sell while he's like, the Dynasty RB 5-6. I think he'll be below that next year at this point in time. So I say get out of Josh Jacobs as well.
Yeah, Jacobs currently goes at running back 7.
7? Okay.
But, again, you bring up a great point. How many running backs can replicate running back 1 back-to-back seasons? It hasn't been done since LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago. We're in a different era. Long time ago. We're in a different era. So, I think that inner circle, man, the Barkleys, the Ecklers, the McCaffreys, the Jacobs, the Mixons, those guys, it's time to let them go. Unless you know you're winning. Like Seth. Seth owns 3 of those 4. The Chubbs. You know what I mean? He owns 3 of those 4.
Yeah.
So why? I mean, he's at that point. He's all in. He's riding. It's riding.
He's on the train, man. He's on the bus, train, plane, whatever you want to call it. He's on it, man.
That's what I'm saying, man. So it is what it is. And Nick Chubb being my sell because at the end of the day, you still have people buying McCaffrey in the second round of Dynasty startups. That's a price
nope.
If you buy that, that's on you.
Nope.
Nick Chubb's still affordable to a certain degree. So, but the last thing I want to say for the running back position, it's in a weird spot right now, like I said. But I think going into 2024 and 2025, we're going to see a reset of the running back market. There's a lot of running back prospects that are coming out in 2024 and 2025 that I'm very excited to see play.
Oh, yeah.
I've been doing a lot of scouting for the 2024 and 2025 class. So There's a lot of guys I can't wait to talk about when it comes to that. And one in 2026, I'm really excited about. Really excited about. But for that being said, it's a weird time for me with running backs. It's very, very weird. It's weird to say that I'm not buying any running backs to a point where it's like, man, I can't wait. Because I have Breece Hall in 6 of my 10 leagues.
I mean, you're good. You don't really have to buy anybody.
Yeah, I don't have to buy him anymore.
Yeah.
So, but anything else you want to cover, man? I mean, we broke it down. It's been a fun time talking running backs.
I mean, like I said, I only came on here to be a precautionary tale about running backs. I'm glad I got my spiel out in the beginning. Like I said, I mean, I'll stand by my word every day. I've kind of said my thing. This is all your territory. Like I said, you've gotten better with receivers every year because of me. I've gotten better with running backs because of you, but just because I'm better at scouting doesn't mean that I still want to own them. I'm not stoked to own like 2 elite running backs, but that's just me.
Well, to wrap up the buy-sell series, we will finish with tight ends at some point. We both have a busy week coming. I do believe this will be our last stream until next week. So yeah. I'm glad we got it in tonight. It has been a blast talking to these running backs with you. Again, if you have running backs, be wary. But 2024, 2025, the market is going to reset. I'm excited. Brian, anything you want to say to the people before we get out of here?
Yeah. Glad everybody's out here. We got a pretty short one tonight. So those that stuck with us, thank you for being here. We appreciate you. Me and Steven were just on the phone the other night talking about how grateful we are to have, even if it's just 4, 5, 6 people that watch consistently. We are so thankful that we even have a platform, much less people that are like waiting for another episode to drop. And this is what we do this for. We love getting information out to you guys. We label ourselves as a non-biased podcast because there is so much that's hive mind, and I'm just glad that we have this opportunity to get it out there. And thank you so much for the support.
Yeah, I just want to say again, people have told me that they can't wait to tune in and watch us, whether it be a few or a lot. We appreciate you guys. Every single week we get to do what we love, talk football, talk Dynasty football, and it's just a blessing, man. Like I said, yards per and RPO, we appreciate you guys. Every day we appreciate you guys because you give us a platform.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I can't say thank you enough. I have a blast, an absolute blast doing this. And, you know what I mean? It's just something that we love to do. And we're going to continue to get better at what we do. We're going to continue. You know what I mean? That's just what we do. That's our goal. We strive to get better. On that note, we're out.